Hello everyone, I'm Hippienator and I'm going to showcase this fantastic run of Superliminal Jumpless, where we have three rules: no going out of bounds, no using a specific kind of glitch called a portal glitch, and obviously no jumping. Superliminal is a 3D perspective-based puzzle game, and we'll just get right into it. It's going to be slightly hard to count down because it's when the level is done loading, but I'll try. So 3, 2, 1, go. So we have a door here that we want to open, and hopefully you'd be able to get it while the screen is black and you could move forward. So coming up, we are just immediately going to make a ramp here, like that, and then we're going to do a launch here. I'll explain the launches in a moment, but first we have a barrier over here that we can't take objects through, but hopefully we can push it through. There we go. So launches are based off the concept of objects not wanting you inside of them, and the first kind of launch we had there I call a resize launch, because it's just quickly resizing an object below you. And in just a moment we're going to see the second kind of launch, which I call a slide launch, where we basically push the object into a wall and it pushes it back into us, so we can fall down like that. So a lot of the game, other than jumping, is just the glitchless run. This has been a surprisingly successful main category somehow.
Please provide a comprehensive, rational explanation in your post-procedural survey. Completed surveys may.
So here we're gonna get a fast resize on a sign here by just going below it. It has to hit both buttons. And in a moment we are coming up to a cheese that we'll have to quickly resize and then use to push down some walls. And then we'll basically be done with the first level. There we go. And then we'll fall down over here in just a moment and hit a bit. So coming up here in the second level, we are going to get what is my favorite launch in the game. We'll hopefully get it. It's kind of hard to get, where we grab a door and then we try and get it to the correct size and the correct angle and drop it at the correct time, which should launch us, but there's a fair chance it won't happen. But there's a backup strategy, which was what we used before we found this trick. So hopefully over here we'll get it, and we managed to get it, which is nice. That happens way too rarely. It is one of the biggest reset points for me when I do runs. And then we're quickly gonna resize the door here, and I just amazingly soft lock myself. So we're going to try and resize that door again, and not soft lock myself. So the joy in this game are portals, because they tend to do nice things, as evident there. So coming up in this third level, we're going to basically just drag a cube around the most of the level, and hopefully get it through all the doors, get all the launches with it. So a lot of tricks has been found while I've ran this category, which is most of them have just made life so much easier. Some have made them worse, but faster. Like the door is a lot harder than what we used to do, but it's also 18 seconds faster. So we're gonna slide this in, that makes us hit the exit sign, so we can fall into the doorway. Normally when you launch and there's a door that's not at the top, you'll just have the pleasure of not going through unless you really time your movement. And I am messing this up. So we're gonna bring this cube here. And we're gonna just push it through a lot of barriers and do a few launches with it. Hopefully.
Please note that a reluctance to volunteer for the risks associated with explosive mental overload implies a misunderstanding of all other solutions.
Now we don't need it anymore, we just need one more cube, which is here.
I am not capable of suboptimal suggestions. Please exit this.
And then we're gonna fall down through this cube, and just as we hit the ground, we'll teleport. And I messed up the angling of that. So almost all of the levels are going to end in an elevator like this, and almost all of them are also going to start in a bedroom, which we're going to probably see now because, okay, never mind. I have a bad loading time on this level. But you can move out of the bedroom and sidestep along the hallway while the screen is black, so you can save some time doing that. So this level is mostly just one long walk. In Glitchless you can actually complete this level without even picking up any object at all. But casually I think it's the coolest level, because it plays with perspective in a way that makes it seem horror-ish. And it's always fun to go on Twitch and see people who've never played the game before just be scared from this level. It happens surprisingly often. And it'll like contain things like die, 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 which is just diet sodas. So that was technically out of bounds, not really gaining anything from it. So you can see there's so-called blood there as well. So we need this, this is one of the few times we're bringing an object through a level that we don't technically need. It'll just be a small time save for us. So we're going to use it to skip going into further into a room and start going upstairs and going along a catwalk. Because in the next room in here, we'll have a catwalk up here that we can't see currently, but we can launch up and land on it. And there's no out of bounds doing that. So we just passed a maze, which glitchlessly most runners will just go past, or go into without grabbing this light. But the problem for jumpless runners is you have to jump to get into it. So we have to get this light and do what I like to call a warp launch, where you make the object really big and then slide it into yourself so it becomes like 1,000,000 times bigger than it originally was. And then you let go of it, which launches you. Or, and this is the reason why I call it a warp launch, if the parameters are correct, it'll warp you instead.
Did you know that
so generally we don't want that to happen, especially because we see warping as going out of bounds. So it wouldn't be allowed. Plus, if it randomly happens, you'll probably just warp into a random part of out of bounds and gain nothing at all. That has happened multiple times in another category for me. So coming up, we will have a level called Clone, where the main mechanic is cloning the objects to solve puzzles. For some reason, the first puzzle does not involve cloning anything at all. So the first puzzle will just be clicking up or picking up a door and just bringing it along. So this level used to be really bad button mashing heavy, but we found a lot of new tricks after I started running the category to lessen the amount of button mashing, making this basically the only part left. Because you have to get up, so you need to make a stairway up there as quickly as possible, or domino row. So for example, over here we have an alarm where we used to randomly just spam click it to hope we could launch up into the doorway, but we can just launch up, land on the fire extinguisher and go in. So the last thing we improved on requires us to hopefully bring this apple. There we go. Which we will use in a bit later in the level. So normally intended you'd clone the red apple that's behind us, so it lands on this button, but seeing as we have the green apple, we can just do that instead. So coming up, we'll actually get that launch to skip a bunch of signs, which we would have to do basically the same with as we did with the doors in the start of the level. Or we can just launch with the apple instead and skip doing that, which is both a nice way to avoid button mashing, but also a nice way to save time. I doubt anyone can button mash fast enough for that to be faster.
VR has never been a mistake. I can help you, but I also do not know how.
That is the end of this level.
Transmission ends.
Experience, team of your care leader, patient years 10 development. Condition.
So coming up, we have a level called Dollhouse, which is probably in all categories more or less the most hated level, because it's just the level where you suddenly lose 20 seconds in a 22-minute run, just because you resize some things, and if we are smaller you move slower, so you can easily lose some time on that. But here we need to bring a soda, which can be a bit tricky to push through this barrier. Hopefully we'll get it quickly. If we've managed to go through the barrier without the soda, there we go, we'd have to restart the entire level. Which isn't a huge time loss, but it would be obviously be a dead actual loss. So we needed to launch up here, because that's the only way to get up there. Now we resize the same building we were just in. And we can get in here. So in a moment we'll come up to a Jenga tower, where there'll be a door on top of the Jenga tower and there'll be a fan in the room. I know some runners use the fan to launch themselves. I personally use the glitchless strat of enlarging the fan quickly and using it to knock the Jenga tower towards me. So we'll just quickly resize it to the doorway. And that's the problem with using that strat, is you can be unlucky and the door doesn't land completely, so you can't go in the room. But luckily you can pick up the window you need from there. So coming up is what is the third biggest reset point for me when I do runs, which is we have a bounty castle in here we need to get into. So it needs to be bigger, but we also need to get on top of it. So we need to get up on the top of this pool area. And we actually managed to get it first try, which is nice. And now we're gonna resize the bouncy castle and then just hopefully drop down without falling down. Yes, there we go. Now we just have to pick it back up, do a quick resize and place it here. And that's the last launch of the level. There's a quick little optimization with some doors we need there's 2 portals. We need to go through a keyhole there. Just pick up this portal, place it like that, and we'll have a decent size and we'll get through quickly.
823 emergency protocols.
And now we're done with this horrible level.
Congratulations. Anyway, you're now headed in the right direction. And we should
So coming up is a level called Labyrinth, or commonly known as Lab. It has an amazing auto-scroller part here. So I'm just going to talk about what happens in other categories that run in newer versions. There's a trigger here for some audio, and that applies in both versions. But in the version I'm running now, which is the release version, that's the only trigger. But in the newer versions, there's multiple ones, and you can skip some of them. So you can jump up here, jump up on that, fall down, and then jump because there's a trigger here. Then we'll have another trigger over here, which we don't skip. It can be skipped, but it takes longer to skip it than to just ignore it. Then we'd use like a soda here to jump up on it, jump up on that speaker, and then jump down, because there's another trigger here. And then there would be a final trigger just over here when that elevator opens. So the reason why we'd want to skip those in the current, if possible, would like to skip them, is because when the final thing is set, we'll teleport. But you don't have to go through all the dialogue, you just need to hear the last part of the last segment of dialogue. So we're gonna teleport a few times. We have to click the alarm to open a door behind us, and we can do some lineups. It's only the vertical angle that matters. The horizontal one will change by itself, so it lines up correctly with the clock or alarm. And here we go. Final teleporting alarm. There we go. That was a really, really good picture. So this is where the level starts going kind of wonky. So in a moment we'll realize that gravity is different than we thought. So just start falling instead. Now there's a door we didn't manage to click, but we needed to fall down to progress. But we also need to grab the door, bring the door along. And the easiest way to bring it is just plonking it over like that, because there's a tiny gap we can do it with. And we needed to get up here, and then again to get up on this, and then one final time over here.
Of course, nothing is more challenging than the difficulty.
In a moment we'll get to one of the puzzles that has been changed probably the most during the different patches, so much that you can almost tell which patch you're running just from looking at this puzzle that's coming up. And it's a puzzle where we have to look the opposite direction of where we want to go, and we want to follow the exit signs. The direction we look will get a wall. And stuff like the hallways being longer, there being a ding sound when you go the correct direction, stuff like that has been added through the life cycle of the game. Oh wow, managed to get that. Normally that block will disappear and teleport up in the last section. So I'm gonna do a trick that I don't always get, where hopefully we'll get it. So that chess piece will just momentarily be physical and then become a painting. But it's long enough for you to be able to push the button and go through the door, which gives a small amount of walking, not really a lot. So coming up we have an elevator maze where normally people would just walk forwards until they find an arrow and then follow the arrows, but speedrunning and stuff, so we just know the fastest way around.
Please listen carefully to the sound
So
of
this
the
looks
alarm,
like we're outside,
which
but
will
we're actually still in a
automatically
room
play if you
with
approach
4
it
walls, and we get
destabilizing
close enough to them, they
viewpoint.
become static like this. When we hit all 4 walls, we'll get a building in the middle, and that building will have an alarm that ends the level, and we can click that from any distance. So we want to go into the two specific corners to get the correct angle.
This is highly unusual.
So here we go into the final actual level,
Diagnostic framework.
and we just picked up the building we're in and pushed it into the door. The door of the building entered into the door of the building, creating a paradox, collapsing the area. So this level is basically also just a lot of walking. There's a few things that happen in the level, but they're far between. There's like 3 puzzles in Glitchless you actually have to interact with, and the level is 5 minutes long, so it's just a lot of walking. But yeah, for people who might be either newer to speedrunning or just interested in trying it, I'd really recommend trying out the Glitchless category of Superliminal. There's no button mashing, there's no RNG. Most of the strats the hard strats generally don't save that much time, so you don't have to be too fussed about it.
Hello. My
And
name is
coming
Dr.
up, I don't know if there's a cap on the volume, but otherwise there's a headphone warning
found myself in a
coming
place
up in
where I understood that each of us
4
begins as
seconds, I think.
where
Just
everything we
around
perceive is shaped by
now-ish. I don't know how loud that got, but I know it's the loudest part of the game. It gets kind of loud. The reason why I want to bring this up is what I talked about earlier, with not being that easy to launch into a doorway that's further up. So we'd want to build a platform, but that means we have to have 2 cubes, one for the platform and one for the launch. So we're gonna use this one to launch and the other one to build a platform in a moment. So hopefully I can do this decent pace. That seems fine. There we go. So in a moment we're gonna click a light switch over here. That'll teleport us, so we look at a black wall and our mouse cursor will disappear. Especially in the older versions, if you turn too fast or don't look in the correct directions, you might not get your mouse cursor back unless you look back in the correct direction, and you'll only get it back if you reset to checkpoint, reset level, or change to the next level. And there's not that much left, but there is still 2 places where it's really nice to have your mouse cursor, so you know if you're pointing the correct place to pick up things. So the puzzle that's coming up now will have a chessboard, and the different squares will only be physical if there's something, an object on top of them. So they nicely left these chess pieces for us here, so we can just slowly make our way above across. In Glitchless, we generally just jump with 1 piece instead, but yeah, not a thing we can do here. So we're gonna do a fast resize here, and we'll hit a checkpoint, and we'll just reset to checkpoint, which is on the other side of the door. In a not too distant future, we'll also have a photosensitivity warning, which should be, I might as well just say now. because funky, nice room. It's worse in the current versions because the white is more white. And it's over now. And now we'll just fall for 23 seconds and the level will end. And the other side, there'll be an alarm that we have to click. We don't even have to move, we just need to move our mouse so we look at it and click. And that's time when we do that. So time is coming up shortly. And time. So yeah, thanks to Calithon for having me for this marathon. And yeah, enjoy the rest of the marathon, hopefully. I don't have too much more.